the spark that breaks the matrix, how one idea can shatter illusions, rebuild reality, and unlock infinite possibility. What if I told you that everything you've ever believed about yourself, about the world, about what's possible is hanging by a single thread, and one thought, just one shift in your mind, could snap it, unraveling the life you know and revealing something so radically different that it redefines everything? Not in theory, not in some vague motivational sense, but I mean literally. One idea grasped fully can flip your reality upside down or right side up, depending on how you see it. That's the hidden power of thought. Not in the thousands of thoughts you have daily, but in the one that breaks through all others, the thought that doesn't just inform, but transforms. And today we're diving into the mechanics of that transformation from both a philosophical and a practical perspective. Because once you understand this, your life will never be the same. Let's begin with a scene that most of us know too well. You're stuck. Not physically, but existentially. You're stuck in patterns, stuck in indecision, stuck in beliefs about what you can and can't do, who you are and who you aren't. You've tried changing your habits, your environment, your routines, but nothing sticks. Because nothing at the surface ever lasts if the mindset underneath it stays the same. This is where the power of one thought comes in. Imagine your mind as a maze, complex, vast, full of loops. Most of us wander it endlessly, trying to fix our lives by rearranging the paths. But one thought, the right thought, is the key that lifts you above the maze. But suddenly, you don't need to fix the paths. You've escaped them.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
So what makes a thought powerful enough to change your life? It's not its complexity. It's not its logic. It's its truth. And truth doesn't need to be elaborate. In fact, the most life-altering ideas are usually simple, but strike you so deeply, so undeniably, that you can't unsee them. Think of this: I am not my thoughts. That one realization has pulled people out of depression, anxiety, addiction. Or everything is created twice, first in the mind, then in reality. That idea has fueled empires, art, movements. Or here's one of the most radical: I always have a choice. Imagine the implications. In your darkest moments, when you feel powerless, if you fully grasp that one thought, not just hear it, but embody it, everything changes. You stop being a victim. You reclaim your power. That's not fluff. That's a shift in the fundamental operating system of your mind. Now, let's get philosophical. Plato talked about the form's perfect, unchanging ideas that exist beyond the physical world, and that this world is just a shadow of. What if I told you your life right now is a shadow, not in a negative sense, but in the sense that it's a reflection of your dominant thoughts? Not random, not accidental, but shaped by the quality of your inner world. This isn't just mysticism, it's logic. Every action you take begins with a thought. Every pattern in your life is repeated because of a belief you hold, often unconsciously. So, one thought, one breakthrough, doesn't just change your mind. It rewires your actions. It changes your trajectory. That's leverage. Let me give you an example that hits hard. There's a man who grew up believing he was not enough. That thought, planted in childhood, shaped every decision he made. He played small. He feared judgment. He avoided risk. Then one day in therapy, he said out loud, "Maybe I am enough." Just words, right? No, that one thought cracked the shell. He felt it not just as an idea, but as truth. It burned through years of falsehood. And he changed, quit the job he hated, pursued a dream he buried, reconnected with people he pushed away. One thought, not a course, not a 10-step plan, just one insight, fully embraced. Here's a question to wrestle with. What thought is currently running your life? Not the ones you post online, the ones that live in the background, unquestioned. But is it I'm unlovable? I can't succeed? Life is struggle? Because those thoughts left unchallenged become your fate. But here's the magic, you can replace them. Not by force, by clarity. The moment you see a lie as a lie, it loses its power. The moment you see a truth as truth, it ignites transformation. This is where philosophy meets reality. Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Why? Because when you don't examine your thoughts, you don't live, you react. You're a puppet of inherited beliefs, cultural narratives, past traumas. But the moment you question, you become free. Let's zoom in. What's the mechanism of transformation? First, there's awareness, noticing the thought. Then, questioning, is it true? Then, replacing what is more true, more empowering. Then, embodying, living as if that new thought is your foundation. It's simple, but it's radical, because most people never get past awareness. They see the thought, but they don't challenge it. They let it sit. They believe it, and belief is what gives a thought its power. Without belief, a thought is just a passing cloud. With belief, it's the sky. Now imagine this. What if you chose your beliefs? Not inherited them, not absorbed them passively, but selected them like tools to build the life you want, not the life you settled for. That's what happens when you find the one thought that shifts your reality. It's not magic, it's design. You're not waiting for life to happen. You're creating it from the inside out. Let's make this even more real. Think of someone you admire. A hero, a leader, an innovator. What separates them from you? Not luck, not talent, not resources. It's how they think. Their dominant thought patterns create their actions, their resilience, their vision. Steve Jobs believed, the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. That's a thought. And it created a legacy. Gandhi believed, be the change you wish to see in the world. That's a thought, and it moved nations. What if the only thing separating you from impact is the thought you haven't embraced yet? Let's pause. Right now in this moment, ask yourself what thought, if I fully believed it, would change everything. Sit with that. Maybe it's I am capable. Maybe it's I am worthy. Maybe it's this is not the end. Whatever it is, let it rise. Because when you find it, when you feel it, not just intellectually, but viscerally, you found your leverage point, your escape velocity. That's the power of one thought. It's not about having more thoughts. It's about finding the right one and living it. Now here's the challenge and the opportunity. Most people wait for that thought to arrive. They hope for inspiration, for a lightning bolt. But what if you chose to find it? What if you sought it out through books, mentors, reflection, silence? What if your job each day was not to survive, but to seek clarity? Because once you have it, action becomes natural. Change becomes inevitable. It's not about willpower. It's about alignment. When your thoughts align with truth, with possibility, with who you really are, nothing can stop you. But not fear, not failure, not doubt, because you've seen through the illusion. And that's the ultimate goal, to see through the illusion. To realize that your current life is a mirror of your past thoughts. And your future life, it's waiting for one idea to set it on fire. How one thought can collapse your limits and create an entirely new life. But let's return to the edge, the precipice where you stand, caught between the familiar gravity of your old life and the electrifying possibility of change. It's tempting to believe that the leap you need to take requires massive force, overwhelming effort, or some grand revelation from the outside world. But that's a lie. The most extraordinary transformations in history, in people, in civilizations, they began with a single, seismic thought. A thought so clear, so resonant, that it didn't merely add information, it shattered illusions. But that's what we're talking about here. The thought that doesn't whisper, it roars. It doesn't suggest, it commands. It doesn't explain your life, it rebuilds it. And the greatest tragedy is that most of us go our entire lives never allowing that one thought to fully take root, to explode through the hardened soil of habit and fear, but to change the very way we see. Here's what people often misunderstand. We think that change is external, that it requires new circumstances, different people, more money, more time. But that belief itself is the cage. The truth is much harder to accept, but also far more liberating. The world outside doesn't need to change. The transformation begins and ends with the thought that arises within. That's the real battlefield. Everything you see, everything you experience, is filtered through the lens of your thoughts. And when that lens is dirty, distorted by fear, shame, self-doubt, no amount of external success or comfort will make you feel whole. That's why the one thought that can change your life is always one that cleanses the lens. It reorients your entire perception. It shifts you from seeing the world as a threat to seeing it as a canvas, from seeing yourself as a victim to seeing yourself as a creator, from fear to power. Let's explore this deeper. There is a moment, one that many people fear to reach, where your current way of thinking breaks down. Maybe it's a crisis, maybe a loss, or maybe just an unbearable sense of stagnation. And in that moment, you can no longer believe the lies you've told yourself. I'm not good enough. Things will never change. This is just the way it is. That's the crack in the system. And through that crack, a new thought can enter. A thought that says, I decide what happens next. Not fate, not society, not the past, but you. That thought, if fully accepted, is atomic. It explodes the victim mentality. It annihilates excuses. It burns away the comfort of blame and exposes the terrifying, yet exhilarating truth: you are not bound by your past thoughts unless you cling to them. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard said, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." Now here's the twist: while reflection gives us insight, it's the thoughts we choose moving forward that forge the path ahead. You can learn from the past, yes, but the power lies in deciding, from this moment forward, I will see myself differently. I will see life differently. That decision is a thought. And that thought is a seed. Plant it, and the roots will grow into every area of your life: your relationships, your work, your habits, your destiny. But the seed cannot grow in poisoned soil. And for most of us, the soil of our minds is crowded with weeds, limiting beliefs, inherited narratives, doubts that never belonged to us in the first place. This is where the work comes in. You must create space for the thought that can change everything. And that means silence. That means stillness. That means radical honesty with yourself. Ask, what thought am I most afraid to let go of? Because that's the one controlling you. And ask this, what thought, if I fully lived by it, would set me free? Because that's the one you need to adopt, not as a wish, but as a law of your being. Let's make this real with a brutal example. Imagine someone who has spent years believing they are broken. Maybe it came from trauma, rejection, failure, and that thought becomes their identity. It seeps into every interaction, every goal, every hope. They self-sabotage not because they want to, but because the thought demands consistency. And the mind hates contradiction. If you think you're broken, any evidence of success feels false, like an imposter's mask. Now imagine that person one day decides, I am not broken. I am whole. I am healing. I am powerful. That thought doesn't erase pain, but it gives meaning to the pain. It reclaims agency. It reprograms the pattern. That one thought, if lived, transforms the person from a shadow into a force. Let's get existential. The 20th century philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre believed that existence precedes essence, that we are not born with a fixed identity or purpose, we create it through choices. What he didn't always say explicitly is that those choices begin with thoughts. Think about it, every action is preceded by a decision, and every decision is preceded by a thought. But your entire essence, who you become, is downstream of your dominant thoughts. That's why one shift in your core belief system is enough to change your entire essence. That you become someone new, not because the world tells you, but because you decide it internally. Now let's flip the script and talk about how one thought can not only change your life, but ripple into others. Think of Martin Luther King Jr., I have a dream. That was a thought. A thought so powerful, so clear, that it became a movement. Think of Elon Musk, what if humans could become multiplanetary? A thought that seems absurd, but it moves people, it creates action. Your life is not just about you. When you embrace the thought that transforms you, you unconsciously give permission for others to transform. That's the butterfly effect of thought. It starts small, but it echoes through every interaction. Your energy shifts. Your words shift, your actions shift, and people feel it, whether they understand it or not. Here's the real challenge. Are you brave enough to hold a thought so powerful that it scares you? Because real transformation is scary. It means letting go of the familiar, letting go of who you've been. And that's why most people avoid the thought that could change their lives, because it demands a death. The death of the old self, the death of comfort. But beyond that death is rebirth, and rebirth is the ultimate freedom. Let's land this with a practice. Take a moment right now and write down a thought that has held you back, something you've believed for years. Then write its opposite, something empowering, true, bold. Now ask yourself, what would my life look like if I fully believed this new thought? Visualize it, feel it, and now act as if it's already true. That's how you embed it. That's how you make it real. Because in the end, your life is not defined by what happens to you. It's defined by what you think about what happens. And in that space, between event and interpretation, lies your ultimate power. Use it. Choose the thought that transforms. Let it burn away the lies. Let it illuminate the path. And let it change everything